Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Vinyl Fridays, the only vinyl review show that is sick right now, and therefore, for however many episodes I film tonight, is going to sound weird. Today, I'm going to review or talk about an album from the year 2000 that I'm very fond of. Might call it one of my favorites. I Get Wet by Andrew WK. This is the ultimate party anthem album. This is a special release with 2 discs. The second one's like a I guess live bonus album. I've never actually listened to it. Here's just a bunch of AWK rocking out. And it's important that there's 2 of him here because Andrew WK is a very interesting, intriguing figure that is confusing and difficult to understand. Because Andrew WK emerged first as this guy who wears all white, has long hair, bloodied his face on the album cover. Apparently, he just, before they were going to take the photo for the album cover, he slammed his face into a brick wall and just started bleeding profusely. And he thinks that's awesome. Andrew WK is all about parties. This album is just a bunch of really heavy, fun rock songs that are extremely upbeat and happy, and about partying and fucking things up and destroying everything in your surroundings, including yourself, and finding such a thing to be awesome. It's entirely an album about positivity with a song called "Ready to Die" on it, about how you better get ready to die because here we come to kill you, but sung in like an upbeat, fun way. Because the whole thing, the attitude it has, is like just this raw, animalistic, I'm going to destroy everything, including myself, and that'll be the best feeling in the world. It's like a cleansing experience. Now, the weird thing about Andrew WK is that his career trajectory gets so bizarre after this album, because it's a pretty successful album. It had the song Party Hard, which was a big, fun party anthem song that everybody loved. And it's also the subject of most of the other songs on the album. Then he made some other albums that have sort of different sounds, all themed around parties, but they all have very different sounds. There started being huge gaps between albums. He hasn't really put out a proper album in like 10 years. Makes a bunch of weird EPs that are exclusive to Japan, such as one where he covers a bunch of Japanese pop songs, one where he covers the entire soundtrack to Mobile Suit Gundam called Gundam Rock. I highly recommend that, especially if you're a Gundam fan. And like an EP that's like Asia exclusive, and he starts doing these fucking weird tours. I saw him on tour on the this one tour he did, which was explicitly not a concert. It was a party. It was a party experiment. And the show was like him and this other dude get on stage, and they're basically just playing like the bass and drum tracks of his songs over a speaker, and then like singing along. But then in between songs there'd be these long segments of them just like talking about stuff and the party atmosphere. He's like a public speaker. He does all these events where he talks about like positivity and shit. He got really into My Little Pony when that show came out because of the fact that Pinkie Pie was the party pony, and so he became determined that he himself was a reincarnation of Pinkie Pie, and he actually spoke at a Brony convention once about it. That's why there's that Pinkie Pie with the bleeding face that says Party Hard t-shirt. I've got it somewhere. I don't know where the hell mine went, but if you've ever seen that before, that's where it comes from. It's sold by him on his website. He's just like all about this party life, and he has a Twitter that I know he doesn't run himself because it updates constantly, where it'll just be like party tips and stuff like that, but it'll be here's a tweet I remember. Party tip: just pissed on my hand, life is amazing. Like, that's the kind of stuff that his ethos is that everything is a party. If you treat everything like a party, then everything becomes a party and life is just always fun. And that's the whole idea behind his character. He writes like advice columns on websites. He shows up seemingly anywhere that people will have him. He was a host on Cartoon Network. He hosted the show Destroy, Build, Destroy. And did some like videos for them, some commercials and stuff. He's been on like all kinds of random YouTube videos. Basically, he's just this personality whose whole thing is that he's about parties. But the weirdest part about it all is that, like, he's not that, like, interesting or charismatic of a person. Like, if you just watch him talk, he's not, like, well-spoken. It's just the ethos, the idea of him that's so fascinating. You know? He's just such an odd character, and I really think that all of that comes through on this album, which is just like 12 songs that are all just these short, loud, fun, blown the fuck out party anthems. You've got the first track, It's Time to Party, which goes like, "It's time to party! Let's party! Hang out with yourself and have a crazy party! Hey you, let's party! Have a killer party and party!" That's the lyrical content. Don't even try to deny it. You're gonna have a party tonight. And then he says, "Open your mouth, we're all gonna come in your face." Then there's Party Hard, Girls Own Love, Ready to Die, as I described. Take It Off, which is an epic anthem that's just like these huge... It's basically a gigantic pop song like Firework by Katy Perry, but played with guitars. And like, and that's the whole attitude of this album. It's rock music. It's definitely heavy, growl vocaled rock music, but everything about the song structure, everything about the sound is pop. It's all like big stadium pop songs. I Love New York City, She Is Beautiful, Party Till You Puke, Fun Nights. And we're gonna have a fun night! Fun night! Fun night! Fun night! We're gonna get off! Gonna get off! Gonna get off! We get off! We get off! 'Cause we do what we want! Basically, they're all songs that are meant to be drunkenly shouted. Like, every song on here is get as drunk as you can, get some friends together, jump a lot, and growl and scream, Gotta do it. I Get Wet. I Get Wet is the most epic track on there. He has a propensity for these big epic closing tracks, and then Don't Stop Living in the Red, which is sort of the coming down song on the album, the post come, I guess. If I Get Wet was the coming song, and he has all these songs. None of them are more than like 3 minutes long at the most. Like 3.5 minutes is the longest tracks on here, and yet he can pack so much punch into such a short space that it's incredible. Like a song like I Get Wet, just from the very beginning, it just takes off. It hits the ground running and gets really big, really fast, and then it just keeps growing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger as he sees, I get wet, 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 I get wet. And then you got a female vocalist, I get wet, over the whole thing as he's, and yeah, and that's the character of it. It's just a bunch of heavy, fun, fast, brutal songs that are about living life to the fullest, and it's such an antithesis of what you think when you think heavy rock music, because most of it's like dark and brooding and stuff, and this is all just dance music, all fun, life affirming, let's break beer cans against our heads and scream kind of music. It's a frat party album, but like in a good way. And it's so obvious to me that Andrew WK is not a frat boy. Like, he views party as like this whole ethos. He views it as this like this philosophy. And he sees it as like a deep thing, And it's funny too, but like on the one hand, I appreciate that it's like this is just a product of who he is, and I know that's true. I've read up on the man a lot, but it also is like an empire where like I know he's got guys writing some of his tweets, and I know that there was this whole controversy that emerged around Andrew WK where people were saying that he had been played by somebody else, that like the character Andrew WK for a time had been performed by another actor, and Andrew WK was denying this, but he was denying it in this very roundabout way where there were things he couldn't talk about. So it sort of seems like maybe that did happen. Like at some point he was not, like someone stood in for him for a while, because I mean the dude just looks like any white guy with long hair, like there was a time when I looked like Andrew WK. And the weirdest part about it is that he has a lot of songs themed around that idea. He has songs themed around the idea that he is everyone and that we're all the same person. He's had music videos where there's just like a bunch of Andrew WKs running around. So like it seems like that's maybe the point in a way, is that anybody could be this, like that he exists in all of us, that we all have Andrew WK in us. We all have this raw animalistic party person inside of us. And to me, that even adds to the music, that idea, like it adds to the theme of this idea that there's, at all of our core, is just this desire to party, this desire to be this guy, and he represents it. And that's why he wears all white, and he's got these tattoos on his arms that are just straight lines because they don't mean anything. All of his tattoos are just straight lines because they are literally meaningless. He can just be anyone. We all have Andrew WK in us. And that's why this album's great. It's, aside from just being a fun, drunken time, it also kind of speaks to this more core idea of who we all are on the inside and what we all want. And that's just to have fun and throw a fucking party. Anyway, that's it for this episode of Vinyl Fridays. Join me next week for more. I'll probably film the next one immediately.